Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Wa nashhadu anna sayyidana wa sanadana wa shafi'ana Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'd. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأمته أجمعين. Today I wanted to talk to you about the month of Ramadan. If you look at the title, I just want to explain a couple of things, but I don't want to stick to the title or be confined by the words in the title. But obviously, as Alhamdulillah, with the Karam and Fazl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have began the month of Ramadan. We all have fasted. Almost all of us, I would imagine, would have fasted many years in the past. We're now in the Ramadan groove. 4, 5, 6 days have passed. And this notion of unlocking Ramadan, what can I do different this year in Ramadan? What can I do better this year in Ramadan to make Ramadan last beyond Ramadan? I don't think any of us really need any tips or strategies at this point on how to spend Ramadan itself within the month. But what can I do differently that it has an after effect, a long after effect, inshallah ta'ala, an everlasting after effect? And that is why I picked these two words, humility and upliftment. And because I'm only going to be talking to you once in this month, so I'm going to talk a bit about the first 10 days, roughly you can say the beginning of Ramadan, then a few points about the middle 10 days of Ramadan, and then third, closing out Ramadan and looking forward afterwards. For the beginning of Ramadan, I think all of us begin with absolute abject humility and really, in a sense, shame in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have yet again appeared in the court of this majestic, luminous month in our dirty, unkempt rags of our worldly, dunyavi existence. And it never amazes, I think, all of us how utterly spiritually unprepared we feel when the month of Ramadan starts. And we have all our hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have past memories from previous Ramadans. And that's important to remember how much karam and fadl, magnanimous grace and majestic bounty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has showered upon us in the past. Same and one and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, same month of Ramadan, and in many ways, same old me. So one thing I think a lot of us subliminally, subconsciously just rely upon is our past experience. It's not the first time. And those of you who are students or professionals, this is actually the way we operate in this world. It's not the first time I'm showing up to a final exam unprepared. It's not the first time I'm rounding when I'm dead tired. It's not the first time that I'm entering this life issue frazzled. And so Ramadan is just yet another thing that comes in our life that we approach it in our own frazzled, haphazard, naqis, means in our own deficient, inadequate way, full of all of our shortcomings. And alhamdulillah, it's worked in previous years, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us through that Ramadan. But the question is that, okay, look, Ramadan is different, right? This isn't just an exam or, a clinic or some life challenge. This is not my hayat dunya. This is not about my dunya. This is about my akhirah. This is about my deen. And there should be something different. So that's the first thing I want to problematize. Oftentimes, and again, to an extent, that's okay. Oftentimes, usually, almost always, for most of us, always, we operate in our deen the same way we operate in the dunya. But maybe Ramadan it's such a game changer, right? It's one lesson that we're learning from Ramadan is that no, the deen is different. The way you operate in deen is different. The way the deen can transform you is different. We can't just be the same. I can't treat Ramadan like a 30-day intensive rotation. I can't treat Ramadan like some ultimate season for me to work hard and reap. I can't only treat it like that. There has to be something different. I think that's the first change we have to make. And that's where the humility comes in, is we have to be open and acknowledge and realize that, yeah, there's a lot of things in my life, in my deen, that I do the same way I do everything in my life. There are a lot of things in my deen that I bring same old me and my personality to it. But look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does to me in Ramadan. If you look at the other side, it's not same old me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making me fast consecutively 30 days, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making me, you know, when I'm saying making me, it means وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ, that there's nothing I'm doing without the grace and beneficence and ability granted to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's called tawfiq. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving me a tawfiq way beyond same old me. I'm standing for 1, 2 hours at night in Taraweeh. I'm reading more Quran in 6 days than I read in 6 months. I made more dua in 6 days than I made in 6 months. I thought about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, zikrullah. In other words, I remembered Him, recollected Him, was mindful of Him, aware of Him, desirous of Him, yearned for Him more than I did in 6 months. I made more dua for the Ahl Gaza, Ahl Palestine, Ahl Sudan, Ahl Sham, Ahl Yemen, Ahl Afghanistan, Ahl Iran, Ummat Muslima, more in these 6 days during my iftar and my suhoor than I did maybe in several months. So clearly, this is a different me. There's more to me than same old me. That's the upliftment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving to us in the month of Ramadan. That this nur of iman that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in our heart, then this tawfiq to do amal, in this case, the amal of the Sawm, the fast of Ramadan. And if we put iman plus amal, and then if we do it purely, solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's called ikhlas. When this combination takes place inside me, I'm not same old me. I become a radically different me. Now, that's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He makes me like that because of the month of Ramadan. But what's supposed to happen, and this is now, even if I break it down further, like into five days, this is what's supposed to happen in like days 6 to 10 of Ramadan. Now you experience this new you, and you like new you better than same old you. You want this to be the new me. This is what happens. And then all of a sudden we get a strange type of humility. And this normally even happens around 10 to 15 Ramadan. But for some of us, it's already happened. It happens earlier. We have our first dip, or for some of us, our first outright crash in Ramadan. So dip can be, okay, the things that were mubah, the things that were permissible, and I left. Maybe I stopped surfing, or I stopped looking at academic Twitter, or whatever it is that the younger generation does. I stopped doing that. I think I'm going to be focused. I'm going to be steadfast. I'm going to maximize my time. I'm going to go all out. Then I had my first dip, my first slip, or somebody might have had their first crash. Maybe they missed a salah. Maybe they, betrayed their modesty. Maybe they had a explosion of anger. Maybe, something happened. Allahu Akbar. And that's also a reminder of the humility, right? And this happens within Ramadan. That while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is uplifting us and raising us and making us stand in qiyam and recite Quran al-Kareem, we also realize that, same old me, in my case, has been there for 52 years, and new me has just been around for 5 days. So it's it takes a lot to change who you are permanently. Doesn't take a lot to change. So look at this. It doesn't take a lot to change who you are for 2 hours. So that's Salatul Tarawih. I changed myself. Never after Isha for 2 hours in the whole year did I stand and pray Salah. I was given a mission. Can you change yourself for 2 hours? Yeah, I can change myself for 2 hours. I can change myself for 12 hours. I can fast. Okay, can I change myself for my whole life? Allahu Akbar. Hmm? So what the reason why sometimes the nafs is still there, right? Shaitan is chained. I have many other talks. You can search for them on the YouTube channel where I have explained in detail the different features of Ramadan, the fadail, virtue and merits of Ramadan. If you're hearing me for the first time, you might want to hear those talks because those talks are sort of in the background of my mind. I'm like taking you to the next level in this talk, right? A lot's going on in Ramadan. But the big thing is, I'm still me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can change the whole universe in Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can change shaitan and all the shayateen. He can close all the gates of Jahannam. He can open all the gates, portals, pathways, actions that lead to Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can multiply the reward of every single fard act 70 times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can grant me the reward of an obligatory act if I do something optional. Allah SWT can do amazing things. Allah SWT can send Layl to Qadr upon me. But the problem is that I'm still me. Allahu Akbar. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Hmm? Because before Ramadan, Allah SWT was already and as always pre-eternally and eternally will be Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Allah SWT has already sent His infinite rahmah on me. It's not that the first time this has happened in my life was I fasted in Ramadan. The problem was I'm still me. Allahu Akbar. So this is like a humility, right? Realizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put every feature, every ingredient, every rahmah, every barakah in Ramadan. So, because I know as the American audience is hearing me maybe for the first time, sometimes I like to explain Ramadan like this, that imagine, because Ramadan is a zaman, right? It's a special time. So try to understand, we don't understand the immense, incredible, amazing, outright, heart stupefying aspect of Ramadan. So think of it like this. In the Arabic language, there's the concept that zaman, time, is a zarf, it's a container. And there's another type of zarf, which is known as makan, which is a place. So imagine if I told you that, look, for 30 days, I'm going to put you in front of the Kaaba. Or if I told you for 30 days, I'm going to put you in Riyadul Jannah. For 30 days, I'm going to put you in Riyadul Jannah right next to road, the part really, the front left corner, right next to Rodatul Rasul. And you're going to stay there for 30 days and nights. You're not going to go anywhere. Allahu Akbar. You'd be like, that's going to be amazing. That's incredible. What if I told you for 30 days, I'm going to open the door of the Kaaba, Baytullah, I'm going to put you inside, and you're going to be there for 30 days. Allahu Akbar. You would say, this is like you're putting me in the most blessed places on earth. I can't even imagine what it would be like to spend 30 days like that. That's what Ramadan is. Ramadan is the temporal equivalent of those spatial examples I gave you. That's what we should feel. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused Ramadan to dawn upon us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed you and me, our very wujud, our very existence and being inside this month that has as much, possibly more nur as Makkah Mukarramah, Medina Munawwara. Allahu Akbar. But like I said, so that's the upliftment, right? But like I said, humility, there's one problem word in that whole sentence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed me inside all that stuff I said. But it's me that was placed inside all that. Hmm? So now the question is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala done everything. What can I do? What can I do? So I think you'll get the sense then that it's going to be about more than just fasting. That again, I don't want to repeat things that many of you would have heard from many other speakers. It doesn't have to be from me. But Ramadan is not the month of fasting. People, these days are saying that Ramadan is the month of fasting. It's not the month of feasting. I say Ramadan is not the month of only fasting. Ramadan is the month of Nur, the month of Allah Ta'ala's Rahmah. Ramadan is the month of Taqwa, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Quran al-Kareem, Ramadan is the month of love. We become the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Quran, Inna Allah yuhibbul muttaqeen, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the muttaqeen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made Ramadan the month of wilayah. where you can become the special, near, dear, intimate friend, lover, true slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what has to change. See, if Ramadan is just a month of fasting, we're all 100%. We changed that about ourselves. We have all, alhamdulillah, changed our eating and drinking, etc. pattern. If Ramadan is just a month of fasting, me and you get 100%. 100%. Ramadan is so much more. So much more. Now, the first step in this is simply wanting it. You have to want it, and you have to work for it, and you have to pray, make dua for it. So all three things in deen. I said this why too. Deen is different from dunya. Dunya is just you have to work for it. In other words, you want it, it's not going to get you anywhere. I used to tell kids, you can tell your professor a million times you want an A. It has nothing to do. Your wanting it has nothing to do with what grade you're going to get. You can try to play the niyyah card on him. That no, innamal a'malu binniyat, professor, you're Muslim. My niyat was to get an A in the class. He'll say it's nothing in the dunya. It's nothing. It means nothing. And the dunya is just the work. In deen, even not just it's not just the work, even more than the amal. Sometimes even more powerful than the amal can be the niyyah, the talab. Niyyah means the intention, talab means the desire. Allahu Akbar. And the third thing that we mentioned was that you have to pray and you make dua for it. That as a transformative thing, you have to ask. Dua means you have to beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bestow it upon you. So we want to change. Ramadan has given us the best opportunity to do number two. It's given us the best framework. Give me some amal that I can do. Because I do have to work for it. All three are there. So for the work for it part, the perfect thing Allah Ta'ala gave us Ramadan. All the features in Ramadan. We're working for it. We're fasting, praying our tarawih, etc. Don't think the niyyah part is just at the start of the month, or the niyyah part is just at Maghrib at the start of the Islamic day. Don't think the niyyah part is just this, that, oh Allah, I intend to fast a fard fast of Ramadan tomorrow for your sake. No, no, no. That is if you think Ramadan is just a month of fasting. The niyyah part is what? That Allah subhanahu, I intend to fast a fard fast tomorrow in the month of Ramadan for your sake, and every other fard fast this month, and every other month for as long as I live. And, Ya Allah, my niyyah is that I want to change my entire self completely. I want to radically change my very being, my personality, my character, my actions, my thoughts, my feelings, my demeanor, my lifestyle, every single thing for you, for your rida, for your pleasure, out of your love, and to follow the sunnah of your beloved, your Habib, your Mahbub, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who you gifted me as my Nabi, my Prophet, my Messenger, my Sayyid, my leader, my Imam. That's Niyyah. That's Niyyah. And so if somebody just intends, I need to fast, and they fast, they think they're done. It's like a closed circuit. And a lot of us, we've been living these closed circuit Ramadans. So to change, the niyyah is to change and to be an instrument, an agent of our change through our intention, our action, and also our dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, then you come right back to the humility. So that's a big upliftment, right? You're going to completely change yourself. That's massive. And then the humility is what brings us to dua, because the next step is that, Ya Allah, and I'm not able to do this. I just made this niyyah to you. I just made this dua to you. I'm working actively to ignite this talab, this wish, this desire in my heart that I want to change. But I know deep down, I'm not capable of changing myself. So I need you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why in Surah Fatiha, when we say, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, so we're making a statement, a claim. Iyyaka na'budu, Ya Allah, for my whole life, only and only you will I worship, will I submit to, will I obey, and I will do so entirely and completely. And immediately we realize there's no way I can do that without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. Wa iyyaka nasta'in. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you only am I going to turn to for help in this matter, that I become your true abd. So this is the feeling that has to be there throughout this month of Ramadan. Then you build up, okay, like the middle 10 days, you have this feeling, you have that struggle, you have that dip. I used to sometimes call it the nafs strikes back. And then you enter the last 10 days. Now, it might seem a little bit early because, mashallah, Ramadan, well, I don't know how it has been for you, but Ramadan, Allahu Alam, but has been going in some way very, very slow, right? Like it doesn't feel that we're still in the first 10 days. Sometimes in the first 10 days, to go very slow. Maybe because you feel that fast or you feel that hunger. There's slow days, long 2 days, 3 days. And you think, what is it? Is like the sixth fast, the seventh fast. Wow, it's going really slow. Something else happens in the last 10 days, right? It'll start happening in the middle. It starts going very fast. Allahu Akbar, right? And we also start moving very fast. Maybe somebody's racing to finish their khatam of Quran. Maybe somebody's trying to, make up on all these du'as that they missed out on. I'll give you, since I said this, I remember to share with you something that I tried to do. That if you break your fast at home, which most people in America do, then you're not going to hear an actual human call the adhan for Maghrib Salah. So you might then forget to make a very special dua after the adhan for Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which you should all know is the sunnah dua after adhan, in which you also ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam maqama mahbuda and darajatul rafi'a, to grant him the most blessed status and station and the most exalted rank of all of humanity on that day of judgment, from which then Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam will implore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in what we call shifa, intercession for this ummah. This is a very important dua, right? And there's never been, me and you have never been in a better spiritual state ourselves to ask this dua from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except at that moment of Maghrib when we are fasting the fard fast of Ramadan. But a lot of us, we forget to make that dua because we didn't hear the adhan. So you should know that this is a dua to be called after the adhan. Yes, especially if you hear the adhan, but even if you don't hear the adhan, you can still make this dua. So, because once I came to this realization and also realized how many times in my life I have not actually heard the adhan, hence didn't make this dua. Worse yet, how many times in my life I actually heard the adhan and still forgot to make this dua. I have a running like qada. I haven't estimated or calculated it, but I try to make up this dua because I understood from this hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to show up on the day of judgment having made this dua for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam 5 times a day, every day of my life. And if I sort of start estimating that, it means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted me to make this dua hundreds of thousands, maybe, I don't know, a million times in my life, and show up on the day of judgment accordingly. And I think in my mind, then that means that I might have a better chance of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam remembering me when he does that great intercession of his ummah. So khair, this just came up because, this is also an example of something the wider. Ramadan should make you more conscious of all the moving parts in your deen. One of those moving parts is the 5 salawat, right? The 5 prayers. And one of those moving parts is being aware of the different times and timings. And so all of us, because of the hunger, we all become more Maghrib conscious, right? We're very conscious about Maghrib time. And so, but that's also a time to make special dua. Fair. So going back to this notion of Ramadan, when you move to the last 10 days, I'm going to do it for you now because it could start right now. Ramadan makes all of us stronger in deen. Right. When I say the word Ramadan, it's a marker for fasting in Ramadan, Taraweeh, recitation, all the things we do and all the things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in this month, Ramadan, makes us stronger in deen. So then there's some topics in deen, some beliefs of deen, some a'mal, actions of deen that you and I, at least I, don't do properly or fully because we were weak in deen. So therefore, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted us with a month in which we're stronger in deen, we should reflect on those things. So one thing, which is very strong concept in deen, and we're normally too weak to really appreciate it fully or to really reflect upon it fully, is Yawm al-Qiyamah, is to think about the day of judgment, to think about Maut and everything between Maut and Yawm al-Qiyamah, to think about death and dying and my time in the grave and the day of judgment and my reckoning in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the very, very real possibility that when my book of deeds is opened, when my deeds is placed on the mizan on the scale, it will be found wanting and lacking. And when my sins are revealed, there could be any of a number of things due to which I may have to go to the fire of Jahannam for some time. This is why it comes from the hadith, in the hadith, that one of the things Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam increased in this month of Ramadan was to make dua for Jannah. So a nice way you can do that, and I'll use the plural because we continually use the plural, making niyat of the whole ummah. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-jannata al-firdaus bighayri hisab. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we beg that you grant us Jannatul Firdaus without any hisab. Again, this is the upliftment part. Radical du'as, right? It is not us. There's no way you and me are worthy of this, to be granted this. Jannatul Firdaus, al-A'la. Hmm? You need the Jannat of the Anbiya, the Jannat of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself, that Jannat. And then the second part, بغير hisab. Allahu Akbar. Without any without any reckoning, without any, just out of your rahmah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. But the other thing is, Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min sakhatika wan nar. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask, we seek refuge in you from your anger, your punishment, your wrath, your even the fair divine justice. Because under any fair standard, me and you have a lot to account for. Hmm? And we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can also ask for najat min nar. Allahumma ajirna min nar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rescue us from the fire, deliver us from the fire, protect us from the fire. You can make all these du'as in English also. And unless Arab is your native tongue or you really have a fluency of Arabic where you can feel feelings from Arabic words, you should always make dua in English as well. This is my recommendation. You should make dua in your language as well, along with the Sunnah Arabic duas. And the English can start as the exact translation of the Sunnah dua, but then you should run with it and you should be spontaneous in your dua. Fair. So this is something to think about in Ramadan. Because the thing is, like, let me try to explain to you. Imagine like I'm just going to pick a random day and date. Let's say it's 9th Zikada, and you're just sitting in your hospital. And I come up to you and I say, you need to make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save you from the fire of Jahannam. You're not at that state of mind, right? You might make that dua, you'll recite it in a rote fashion. You can say those words, but think about this. Of all the duas that me and you make, which dua should be one of the most heartfelt duas that we should make? That comes from the very core of our ruh, the depth of our being. What dua is it? The dua? Let me pass the final exam. Let me get the residency match. Which dua should it be? It should be this dua. But we're not in that state of mind. It's just heavy. It's really heavy to think about the fire of Jahannam and to think about your strong likelihood of being burned in that fire. But Ramadan makes us strong. And so we should take advantage of that strength of deen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us in Ramadan and do, if you will, the heavy lifting, right? In dua and amal, whatever it may be, in this month of Ramadan. So that's something that can stay with us, inshallah ta'ala, after the month. And in other words, that's something that can have an effect on us, a mindset on us. What does that mean? That means that that person who in Ramadan, especially, throughout Ramadan, really, but also if they can't, then at least in the last 10 days of Ramadan, really makes that dua such that they reach the zone. The zone means such that they reached the zone that they were truly weeping in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, begging, crying, because they truly felt themselves as worthy of the punishment of the fire of Jahannam, and they really tapped into their feeling of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with hope and begged for that salvation. Once you get that feeling can stay with you. Then when I show up on 6 Zikada and say make dua, you'll say, yeah, it's okay. I know how to make this dua. You'll remember yourself in the odd nights of Ramadan. You say, yeah, you're right. I haven't made this dua. It's been a while. I know. I know what this dua feels like. Alhamdulillah. You see what I'm saying? These feelings, these intense, deep feelings that require a person, in order to feel them, require what? That you had been strong in deen, that you had been obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you had been praying all your salah, that you had been making a'mal of salih, doing righteous, virtuous deeds, that you had lowered your gaze, that you had controlled your anger, that you had restrained your tongue, that you were reciting Quran. In other words, all the things that mean you end up doing in Ramadan, right? So I hope this is clear. Take advantage of this fact that we're doing things in Ramadan that we don't normally do. So this will help us do the strong things in Deen. Second, so when I give this example of everything from Maut to Yawm al-Qiyamah, think about the qabr, think about the possibility of adab, a punishment in the grave. Everything. Think about being ashamed and embarrassed. Think about the horrific nightmare that Sayyidina Rasulullah, na'udhu al-aman al-hafid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from this, that now Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is walking around on the day of judgment and doing shifa for those mu'mineen, but he walks past you. Al-aman al-hafiz. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. How lowly could we be that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's glance does not, his gaze does not cast a glance upon us, or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is casting his gaze of rahmah, and you've seen it, it's already come and it's going to come again in Quran Kareem. It's already come in Taraweeh, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at them. Allahu Akbar. It's about the kuffar, it's not about mu'mineen. But even just standing there, even as a mu'min, when you see that there's a segment of humanity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not even glancing towards them, the fear that will come in us, the haiba, the the haiba that will come in us. Okay, second major thing that requires one to be strong in deen to do it, and therefore we should try to do it in Ramadan, is changing. Now, it's going to be tough on the professionals. In other words, I also feel as a speaker, like the tough topics, so you want to go tough on people, you should go tough on them in Ramadan because they're stronger, they can take it. All right. So let me give you the tough stuff that I can't say in Juma in America because people will get scared or run away or they'll say, oh, these people, whatever, these du'at ulama are too strong on us. But in Ramadan, yeah, mashallah, if we're strong in deen, we need that tough dose. Second major thing, it requires a person to be strong in deen, strong in deen. If you really want to be uplifted this month in Ramadan, is we have to change our attitude and approach to dunya. We're too in love with dunya, with our careers, with our professions, with our plans, with our hopes and aspirations for success. And here outside in Ramadan, a person's willing to hear this. Outside Ramadan, you're going to get the pushback. No, but can't we be successful? Don't we have to, show exemplary Muslim leadership? Or isn't it good if they're Muslim doctors who also chairs? Or isn't it really good for the ummah if there's a Muslim who's the dean of the medical school? This is the type of stuff you'd say back to me if I try to convince you of this in 6 Zikada. I'm really picking on that day. You'll remember me if on 6 Zikada, inshallah. Allahu Akbar. Hmm? And hopefully, Allah, maybe some of you are still gonna push back right now. Allahu alam. In Ramadan, you gotta go a little tough on yourself. It's not for me to be tough on you. I should be tough on me. I'm guiding and inviting you to be tough on yourself. Look, is this really the be all end of my life? And let me just compare that. What is my level of standard of goals and aspirations indeed? Hmm? If I'm trying to be number one chief resident, am I chief muttaqi? Allahu Akbar. Do I have chief haya? Hmm? Am I chief in my recitation of Quran? Am I chief in my love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Am I chief in how much salawat I send on Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Am I chief in my even something so simple as my morning du'as? Why am I not aspirate? Why my aspirations are not there? Why there I'm happy being year one intern, and here I want to be chief resident. Subhanallah. Hmm? Allahu Akbar. Another thing we talk about is it's called in Arabic tul amal, like long hopes, long range future planning and hopes. Hmm? In Ramadan, it's like, you know what happens in Ramadan? You think about like tonight, like it's tonight after Taraweeh, I'm making dua. You forget the rest of your hayat dunya. In other words, the du'as go straight to akhirah. Yalla, just grant me Jannah. Yalla, save me with the fire of Jahannam. Yalla, make dua for the ummah. You forget your own dunya. You can make dua for the dunya of the ummah, the mustad'afin minhum, the ones who are, oppressed and being, distressed and oppressed. But for oneself, sometimes you let go. That's a beautiful thing. I'm not saying, alhamdulillah, we have the balance. All of you should study and do your professions and within reason, without sacrificing excellence in deen, you should strive for every excellence in dunya. Our mistake, we have an incorrect understanding. As long as I don't sacrifice the bare minimum fard of deen and don't do haram, I can strive for every excellence in dunya. So now I'm going to use Islamic terms on both sides. As long as I can keep up with the bare minimum fard of deen, I'm going to try to do the fard, wajib, sunnah, mustahab, and nafil of dunya. Allahu Akbar. No, no, no. Fard of deen, then fard of dunya. Then wajib of deen, then wajib of dunya. Then sunnah, mustahab, nafil, extras of deen first. And if after whatever ability and opportunity Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me to get extras in deen, there's any space and time left over in my life, I will try for extras in dunya. Not that I go for extras of dunya first, as long as it doesn't come at the expense of necessities of deen. And it's tough for me to say and hear myself. Hmm? Maybe tough for some of you to hear. Ramadan is the time to have those tough conversations with yourself because I'm going to be honest with you. That's really where the change happens. When we change our approach to dunya, when we put dunya, a beautiful dua I once heard and read, and I can't remember, it was from some very, probably some early Sufi mystic. It's a beautiful dua that, oh Allah, let me gaze upon the dunya the way you gaze upon it. In other words, let me view the dunya to be such a small, trifle, infinitesimal, negligible, negligent, paltry thing. Hmm? The same way you view it. Allahu Akbar. Kul mata'ud dunya qaleel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Quran Kareem that proclaim every single thing in the dunya and all that it contains. A dunya wa ma fiha is what? According to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his regard, qaleel. And when that being who's Al-Azim and Al-Akbar says qaleel, just think of like we talk about relief, right? It's relief background, contrast, right? It's absolutely nothing. That being who is absolutely everything is telling you the dunya is absolutely nothing. So we need to start feeling like that. We need to start living our life like that. We need to start planning our life like that. As parents, you people, the worldly wish list for children is what? They get education, they get career, marriage, children, family, car, and house. We have like five things. All right, what's the dini wish list for the children? Dini wish list for the children, what is it? Is it that high? Because that's not required, right? I don't have some of those things, right? That I just mentioned to you. Forget my children. I don't have some of those things on the five, right? I don't. So you might be. Alhamdulillah. But I don't own a house. I'm not a homeowner, right? As an example, right? I actually never. But my parents bought me a car. I would not have been able to buy a car when I came back to America on my own, right? Dean. When you look at the Dean list, it's like okay, just they pray 5 times a day, and they fast. No, the wish list for Dean for the children should be what? My son should know the entire Quran al-Kareem. My son should know the entire Sirah. My daughter should know the entire Hadith. Any son and daughter for both of them. My child should know the Quran, Sunnah, and Sirah. My child should love, not just believe. My child should absolutely, my adult child should absolutely love Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, should absolutely love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than he loves anything in this world. Not just they should know the name or they should have nafs and iman. No, my child should be the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. Chief. My child should be the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is our wish list about ourselves also, not just about our children. This is something that that when you're in a state of obedience and worship that Ramadan brings us into, we can now orient our life towards the real goals, the real dreams, the real aspirations, the real loves. And then when we realize and you enter that world, it's only when you enter that zone that you realize how much of my life I've been focused on false loves, false appreciations. I want Allah Ta'ala to love me because I prayed a Fajr Salah where I was wakeful and mindful and focused on Him, and all the time I was doing dhikr. I need that appreciation more than I need the appreciation of a colleague or supervisor who is just fleeting. Is just a fleeting existence in my existence, which is itself fleeting in this world. Fair. So the time is also run out, but it's enough for you to get the idea, inshallah. Ramadan is an opportunity for us to change ourselves, our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our level of deen. That's what Ramadan is. Fasting is the first step, core ingredient, main feature of the month for us to do that. But the whole month has many other aspects to it. And the goal is really what I said. It's all easy for me to say to you in 45 minutes, I'm no better than any of you. I actually hope that maybe if any one of you are inspired to change yourselves in this month, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have mercy on me and say that, oh, because he gave a short reminder, so and so changed themselves. So will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give me tawfiq to change myself as well. We make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us the infinite, His infinite rahmah, which out of His love and His mercy He has chosen to shower upon us in maximum force and strength in this month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us then to respond accordingly, to react accordingly. Let us accept that gift as intensely as the giver is giving us his gift of his rahmah and his hidayah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us true, steadfast mu'mineen. May He make us from the muttaqeen, salihin, mu'mineen. May He put barakah in every lamha, every moment, every day, every night, every fast that remains in this month. Whatever goals we are trying with our best of intention and our hope from Him to attain in this month in terms of recitation of Quran, recitation of salawat, dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua, spending maybe time in itikaf or partially even in the last 10 days. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us even more than we could ever imagine, ever hope for, ever intend for, ever strive for. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.